Hi guys, welcome to this Escape from Tarkov video. Now, I'm going to be talking while in the background I'm going to be having regular Escape from Tarkov footage playing, and it's not going to be directly related, just more of a background thing to just kind of pay attention to while I explain Tarkov. Now, this video is going to be a beginner's guide of Tarkov. Now, I'm going to try to cover as much as I can without getting too in depth about everything. And pardon me if you hear me coughing or if you hear me clearing my throat. I'm kind of fighting a cold right now. Now, first things first is you guys need to understand Tarkov. Understanding Tarkov to begin with is not supposed to be a very easy game to play. Tarkov is one of those games to where it's going to literally have your heart beating, sitting in a chair while you're hearing gunshots out in the distance, or someone's going to shoot at you, you don't know where it's coming from, and you're going to like shit your pants. It's a very hard game, and it's a very steep learning curve, especially if it's like one of the first games you started playing. And PC in general is one of the first game is like PC in general is new to you as well. It's very hard to get used to, and it's very hard to understand everything about the game without any sort of tutorial. That's why I'm here. I'm trying to help you guys so you don't have to go through what I went through, what a lot of people have to go through. Now, with that being said, and Tarkov being just a very steep game to learn, you need to understand kind of like the maps you play on. Now, it's very hard to just like you run one map, you understand it immediately. Some of these maps can be very complex. A general rule of thumb when spawning in is that you're gonna have people like trying to spawn in just like you, and they're gonna either be pushing you from your right, your left, and maybe directly ahead of you. And now you might be like, well, thanks, that really narrows it down. Well, I'm serious though. If you're not 100% certain, just expect that you're gonna get pushed from each angle. It's best that way. If you run straight out into the middle of the open, everyone's going to be able to see you. It's something to expect, especially early game. Early game, whether it be early wipe or whether it just be the match just started. Depending upon your skills as well, and if this is a beginner's guide, you guys are going to be very behind the curve depending upon which part of the wipe you come in. Uh, so, with that in mind, on top of where you spawn, to keep in mind, as some of you guys might know, to figure out your extracts, just going through the controls, if you double tap O or however you have it mapped, it's going to give you these extracts to where you can get out at. It's a good way to think about it is wherever you spawn, the extract is going to be on the opposite side of the map. That's just usually how they try to work it so everyone has a good chance to meet up everyone and have as many firefights as possible. Now, with that, you need to keep in mind of if you're not familiar with the map and you're just like you're trying to take it as slow as possible, some of these people know the map front and back, like it's the back of their hand. They're going to be running around it like they own the place. If you're scared and you just want to like kind of take it chill, you can run offline raids and kind of learn the map for yourself. Or if you just want to play online, but kind of like let people play out a little bit, there's nothing against hanging out where you spawn. If you spawn and you go find a bush, just try not to shuffle a lot or move around in that bush a lot because that will make a lot of noise. But if you hang out somewhere, kind of let everyone that spawned into that map run to wherever they're going, and then you can go and wander off and do your thing. That is a very good way to kind of let people do them first, and then you can wander on to people rather than having people wander in the same path where you're going. Most times that works, sometimes it doesn't. But with Tarkov, there's loads of different gaming strategies. You can't bash on anyone that wants to be a rat and camp in a bush. You can't bash on anyone that wants to be a Giga Chad, run the best gear, show no mercy, and kill all the new people. And there's some people that just run light gear and still smack people around. There's so many different types of gaming strategies in this game. You have to be not just a master at one, but you have to be proficient in all to survive. Because the people that are camping extract, letting you do all the hard work for them, is in essence of things how real world works, right? Now, on top of that, other things to kind of keep in mind. You are giving a compass nowadays. A compass like it fucking is. It tells you your directions, your cardinal directions. Now, the compass is given through a quest later on. Do not spend the money, what it's like 120, $140,000. You're given that for a quest reward early on in the game. Use that to kind of understand the map as well and kind of have markers. And I always suggest having your maps up on either on your phone or a separate monitor if you have one. Having them up and being able to reference, famous callouts for like woods, they have Dickhead Rock or they have Lumber Mill. Knowing where they lie on the map when it's on your phone and where you are can greatly help you with surviving the map. I remember the first like 9 months and even a little bit past that, I always had to have my map up or at least on handy. So if I get lost, I can just bring it right back up. Things to increase your chances of survival and understanding how to expect that you're not always going to live. I should put it like that. Because there are some things you could do to increase your chances of survival, but there's like other outside forces that are just always against you and going to kill you. Best way to understand, like I mentioned earlier, Tarkov is a very steep learning curve. Depending upon which map you're on, I'm just going to rough estimate it. You could have anywhere from 10 to like 12, 15 people spawn in a map. All those people are trying to kill you. Now, let's say, you know, what, 10% of those people live, or we'll say 20% of those people live. And that's not even the people that are in a group, because you can have groups that spawn into the same match as solo players. That's only like 2 or 3 players of that 10 or 15. And how many times that happens is crazy. Sometimes you have bigger maps where everyone can miss each other. But a lot of the times, especially late white, people are pushing heavy PvP zones. So to know those heavy PvP zones, you kind of have to play the game more, understand what shots sound like what guns, who has those guns, whether it be scav bosses or just regular scavs, and that can better feed you information to avoid those areas or just kind of push it if that's what you're trying to do. Rule of thumb, if you hear a suppressor going off near you, someone's either going to be shooting at you soon or there's a player in the area that he wants you. He is close to you, you're close to him, and it's about to go down. If you don't want it, run the opposite direction from where you heard those shots. So do not get mad whenever you have these losing streaks of like you have like 10 games where you spend like 25, 30 minutes in each game, or you can't even stay in a game longer than 5 minutes. If you get into a game and you keep dying over and over and over again, change up what you're doing. If you're doing something slow and methodical and it keeps getting you killed, say fuck it, I'm gonna run and just charge on in there. If that gets you killed, oh well. If you get to a point to where you're getting too angry with the game, you just need to take a breather, go play a different game and just kind of calm down and then come right back to it, because Tarkov is a game that doesn't matter if you're fucking angry at it or not. It's not going to base it off of just soul chance and throw you a bone every now and again. You have to find those bones and make those bones yours. Um, there are things to help you as well. Like when I was talking about having your maps up, oh, there's a thing called Map Genie. I suggest it, or if you have the maps like saved or downloaded on your phone. But Map Genie is a very good resource to use, and if you're a new player, it's always something good to check out. Other things to understand. In this game, there are a variety of guns. There's a variety of calibers. There's 5.56, 7.62 by 51, which is also considered a 308 because it's so close to it in this game. There's 300 blackout, 9 mil, which is 9 by 19. There's 9 by 18. There's 45, so on and so forth. Of those calibers, there's different bullets in those calibers, if that makes sense. Now, some of these bullets are broken down, or these calibers are broken down by their bullets and what damage and penetration models they have. These things will help you survive. Most, if not all, bullets, there's a one-shot headshot. That being said, depending upon the armor people are wearing, it can increase their chances to survive the damage you inflict on them. If someone were to say, shoot me in the face, and I'm wearing like an exfil, I'm gonna die. Like if they shoot me in this open part, I'm gonna straight up die. But if they shoot me in the top of the head with say like a Keter, there's a good chance it's gonna ricochet. because Ketters usually don't have the best ammo, and it's usually something the scavs have. But there are some types of things that will ricochet or bounce or just absorb the ammo altogether. If you're using a really low tier ammo, it's gonna get absorbed by the body armor, or it's gonna do very little damage after it penetrates, and that's where you got to keep in mind. Now, in this video, I'm going to attach a thing called like a bullet wiki. Highly suggest you use it. It's something that a lot of people kind of swear by to understand, and eventually you will memorize it if you play this game enough. Bullets are more critical in this game, or the type of bullet you use in this game is more critical to your survival than any type of armor, any type of weapon you use. You can use this SA-58, but as long as you're using, really shitty BPZ, which is like one of the lower end rounds, and you have someone that's using, let's say, like this MP9, that's a 9 mil, and they're using a lot better ammo for this caliber than I am for this one, they have a good chance to win. It's not always about who has the biggest fucking gun. It's who's the big man in the locker room, right? That's not always the case. Other things to keep in mind. You always kind of want to run on a budget if you're new to the game as well. Kind of common sense. If you're going in and you're going in by yourself, never don't unless you're comfortable with it. I wouldn't suggest running with your best gear over and over and over again. Give you something to build off of. A lot of people like to insurance fraud, which is, hey, I'm wearing this Corund and it's 4.1 points out of 45, and I get in a firefight, I find someone else. If I had this insured, I'd dump this off in a bush, put on their Corund, and I'd go on my way. With that being said, always try to up what stuff you're going to take out of the raid. Kind of think of it by square. You know, this one grenade might be worth 7k, but this suppressor is worth, with the attachment on it, is worth upwards like 50, 60k. This is 7k per square. This is almost 35k per square. So kind of keep in mind and how you're looting things. Running on a budget is always great. If you're not sure of a map, there's nothing against running in naked to kind of learn the map, or running offline raids. You can run offline raids with scavs in to kind of train your aim, or you can run where there's no one else in the raid, just you, but you don't get any of the XP and or rewards or gear that comes out of that raid. Never Another thing with running on a budget, never try to run your stash lower than a certain point. You never want to put yourself in a hole to where you have zero gear to run. If that's the case, you're going to be stuck on an infinite loop of scav runs, or an infinite loop of running hatchlings, which is just you running around with your scabbard, but it'd be like a little knife or a hatchet. You don't really want to do that because it can take a lot of fun out of the game, but be smart with how you run. Hideout Advancement is a very, very crucial part of this game, and a very easy way to have money, or sustaining an easy cash flow. You can, at a certain point, once you get your Bitcoin farm in, you can get one of these Bitcoins every 24 or 30 hours. And that being said, you get on for the first part of the day, you go to a therapist, you sell, and that's an easy 230k right in the bank, right there. Now, with that 230k, depending upon what kind of kits that you're running, that can be anywhere from 1 kit, 2 kits, or even 5 or 6 kits, however thick you're running. And that is very, very crucial to your survival in this game, is having a steady cash flow. If you're not always having the best luck with raids, your hideout is going to save you big time. Another way to kind of advance through the game and how to level up fast is using your tasks that you're giving. Task is the number one way to level up. Yes, having great raids, going in PvPing, getting like 5,000-10,000 XP. If you can do that, great. But not all of us are like god tier like players. Your tasks are the most consistent way to make money, most consistent way to have XP, and it just advances your character throughout the game a lot faster than just going in and rinsing and repeating through raids. That is the number one way to get yourself through this game and kind of understand you through this game, because these tasks will bring you to certain parts of each map and it'll keep changing it up for you and help you understand the game. Now, on to our next segment. Hi guys, so here's a little crash course on how to heal yourself in Tarkov. So there's a couple of things that can be inflicted to your person while in a firefight or just while going throughout Tarkov. These things can consist of light bleeds, heavy bleeds, fractures, breaks, and there are some other minor things, but some of those things don't happen as much, like poison damage, but that's only when you get into cultists. And for right now, that is nothing you really need to worry yourself with. So, of the major things to keep in mind, whenever you're getting into a firefight, if you get hit, you can always guarantee you're going to have a light bleed, if not a heavy bleed. Now, these things can take up a certain amount of hit points on your med kits that you may be running with, or you can just be to heal just that item. If you have, say, a light bleed, you can use bandages. Some of these can be used more than once. That's what these little numbers mean. So a bandage can heal light bleeds. Hemostats, cat kits, Esmarks can heal heavy bleeds. Now, some of these items you may see have usage times. So of these three, Esmarks take the longest. I personally like running with the hemostats. You get 3 uses out of them, and sometimes you get more than 1 heavy bleed in a firefight. Now, some of these medkits over here can heal light and heavy bleeds, but you got to keep in mind that when you heal heavy and or light bleeds with a standard medkit, you are going to take off a big chunk of the hit points allotted to you from that medkit. So, for instance, if you heal a light bleed with your car kit, it's going to take off 50 points automatically. Now, some of these things you might see aren't allowing you to heal heavy bleeds. For instance, like your car kit. Some of these are just standard med kits that are going to heal you up real quick. For instance, AI2s. AI2s only heal you. They don't stop light bleeds. They don't stop heavy bleeds or anything like that. So some of you guys might think like, oh, I'm just going to run with 2 IFAKs. I'm just going to run with 1 Salewa. That'll be plenty amount of points for me to run with. Or even better yet, you have a Grizzly here. This Grizzly can heal light bleeds, heavy bleeds, and up to fractures, which fractures usually can be healed with splints or an ALU splint. This ALU splint can be used up to 5 times. And you're like, why am I not just running this Grizzly all the time? Well, for one thing, a lot of people like to hotkey their meds. As you might see, I already have a couple hotkeyed over here. You can just hotkey things above your letters on your keyboard. So right where the number's at, you just go over and hit like say 4 or 5 and whatever. Me personally, I like to run like this hemostat. I get like an IFAK or a Salewa as my second or my fifth one, and I have a painkiller. Usually I like to run Propital. Now when running painkillers, and I'll touch back on why some of these items aren't as best to run with all the time. Now, when running painkillers, painkillers are mainly used to neglect pain that your person is currently going through. Now, some of these things you'll see have major pros and cons to them, right? So, as you can see, morphine will dehydrate you and take off energy. So will your painkillers, but painkillers is more heavy on your hydration. Propital does a lot more for you, but they're more expensive, and they have some heavier after effects, like you'll get tunnel vision, so the outside of your screen will blacken and start to close in on you, but it's only for a short amount of time. Painkillers are usually used to get away in a firefight, or if you have, say, a broken limb like an arm, or you got a broken leg and you're trying to run away. If you have a broken leg or a fractured leg, you cannot run on it unless you're under a substance like a painkiller. So usually I like to keep one of these in my quick slots. Yes, you can always have these in like your bag and then just right click and use it, but then it means you have to get into your inventory in the middle of a firefight and can be very clunky if you're not completely used to the game. Like I was saying earlier, you're like, why am I not just running this Grizzly? It's obviously a one-stop shop, minus the painkillers. Well, for that reason of if you're trying to quick slot things and say you want this Grizzly, you drag it down here as well, the hotkey. And look, it's right there. He's like, oh, that's great. But not all rigs can hold a grizzly. And you can only have things hotkeyed when they're in your attack rig spot or in your pockets. And you can't fit a grizzly right here, clearly. And so if it's right down here, see how it's hotkeyed? If you bring it in your bag, it's not hotkeyed anymore. So you have to get in your bag every time to use this. That's why a lot of people like to use like an Esmark or a cat, or sorry, a hemostat, a cat, and an Esmark, along with a Salewa. Personally, I try to run with something that can heal my character up all the way to 440. Reason being is if you get to a firefight and say you get messed up and then you try to reset, you get away from them. You don't want to be in a spot to where you don't have enough meds to heal yourself. If you already have a hemostat, then you don't have to worry about the big chunks coming off of this. That's 400 points. Usually that's just enough to run with, but if you heal a heavy bleed with that, that's over half of it's gone. So you might get down to like 100 points. Well, now you're only at like around 300 if you heal a heavy bleed with it. And on top, if there's a light bleed, which usually comes with a heavy bleed, and your bullet wounds or your inflictions dealt to your character can open up if you're running on a fresh wound. That is something new that they added into the game, so you got to keep in mind. You'll notice if you're bleeding, if there's splotches of blood on your screen. Other things to heal yourself with, I kind of touched on, are splints and ALU splints. The immobilizing splint is a one-time use to heal a fracture. A Serve 12 kit can be used to heal a fracture or a broken limb. A CMS kit can be used to heal only a broken limb. Reason people try to choose a CMS over a Serve 12 is one, space usage. So you can see it's a 1x2 opposed to the Serve 12's 1x3. Some people don't have a kappa. If you're not late game or if you're just starting out, you're definitely not going to have a kappa. That's a late game item. Some of you guys, if you buy the standard edition, are going to have an alpha container, which is just a 2x2 area. You can't fit a Serve 12 in a 2x2 area. So some people will put this CMS in their butt, which is this is what that area is called to some people. Now, if you put that in there, one of the things you got to keep in mind, the big difference between a CMS and a Serve 12, minus the fact that you cannot heal a fracture with the CMS, is the fact of a CMS, whenever you lose a limb and you heal a limb, like from a broken limb, say this arm is down to 0 to 60, it's blacked. You use a CMS on it, it's automatically, when you heal, it's going to be at 30 points. If you use a Serve 12 on it, it's going to be at like 45, 50 maybe. It doesn't lose that much points off of the complete arm health, or the overall health of your body, I should say. And you'll see when you heal your limbs up with a Serve 12 or CMS that this overall number that you have here slowly starts going down. And that is really the rough outline of how to heal yourself in Tarkov. So one thing I did forget to mention is that you can heal yourself one other way. At the end of a raid, whether you extract and you survive or you get shot at the end of it, there is one thing they added into the game which is kind of a quality of life thing. It used to be that you'd have to wait for your person to heal up, which depending upon your hideout upgrade, your person can take anywhere from, let's say, 1 to 2 hours to heal from 0 to 440, or upwards of like 20 minutes if your hideout was completely maxed out. Now, if you're just starting out, you're obviously going to be struggling. You're not going to have as many meds, and you just don't want to be sitting here burning up your AI2s, healing up your body, getting rid of your fractures with the ALUs. So at the end of each raid, they have an option to actually heal yourself up. It's a cheap way to do so. I highly suggest it if you're hurting on meds to just spend the 8k rubles and just heal yourself up, or the 12k, however much it might cost. However, there is a flip side to that. If you have, let's say, these grizzly kits that you're not going to run around with, what I like to do is I have like 1 or 2 of those in my stash. And whenever I leave a raid and I die, when I'm ready to go back into a raid, after letting my hideout try to heal me up as much as possible, I'll use these grizzlies to heal me up in my stash. Reason being is it actually gives you XP towards like your vitality or your health section. It gives XP to your health section. And as you guys can see, all your skills have certain bonuses to them as the further along you go upgrading them. But I'm not going to get into all that right now. Just something to keep in mind in the back of your head when starting out in the game. All right, guys. Now, lastly, I'm going to give you a little bit more quality of life and some things to understand about the game that will, put you on the right foot. So when you're starting out the game, you start out at level 1, and you're like trying to figure out what things are worth what things are good to keep holding on to or to sell, and especially if you don't have the Edge of Darkness edition, which gives you an expanded stash. Not saying that you have to have it if it's nice to have. When you first start out, you're gonna be given a set of items to start out your account. Some guns, armor, so on and so forth. A lot of those items aren't going to be showing found in raid status, if any of them are going to be found in raid status. How you can tell if something is found in raid is if it has this little check mark. If this check mark, for say, is gold, that means it's used for a quest. You won't have any of those items right off the bat that will show that they're gold or for a quest, because that'll just be too easy. And like I mentioned before, Tarkov isn't about that. You won't be able to find out the exact price of some of these items. Items sell differently in two ways. When you have dealers, some of your dealers when you first start out aren't going to be available to use, which I'll explain in my later videos. So stay tuned. Now, some of these dealers at certain loyalty levels are going to be able to buy certain of these items. Now, you might see, like, for instance, let's go to Therapist. Go to Therapist, go down to the bottom, and we find this key card. It says 63K. That's how much she's willing to give it to me. At level 10, you get this thing called the Flea Market. Think of it as like basically eBay, but for this game. All the players that play this game are up there throwing things up for sale, and basically you buy it for the price they want it for a bit of commission. You filter by item, and it shows you, wow, this thing's actually worth 300K. Or you can buy it from a dealer for 207. So she's considerably taking advantage of you. Like I said, keep in mind that you can only sell items on the flea market if they have found in raid status. Found in raid status is literally as it sounds. If you find it in raid in that match, then it's found in raid. Now, if you find it on a player and it doesn't have that circle, that means that person brought it into the raid. So anything, if I were to go in with this M700 and I start a raid, it's going to take away the found in raid status because it wasn't found in that exact game. I got it from a previous game off like a shelf or whatever, and I brought it out of the game. Now, some other things to keep in mind when you're looting, some things to do. If you're trying to loot and scoot, get in and get out, if you're trying to wear stuff really fast, if you alt click, you throw it into the available space on your person. So say you want to grab someone's full kit. You're just like, all right, I'm going to grab their gun, I'm going to grab their helmet, armor, vest, and I'm going to be on my way. And now you have all their stuff to go. However, if you have already that spot filled, if I'm sitting here and clicking and holding alt click, it's not going to let me do it. That spot has to be available for me to do that. But if you're like, I need to keep my vest on because it has my magazines, I don't have the time to switch my magazines over, cool. So, it's fine. You can go ahead and control click and it throws it directly into your backpack or any available space that's on your person. Some things to keep in mind so when you're not sitting there out in the open waiting to get headshot, basically. Yeah, keep in mind that you won't have a lot of the flea market. You won't be able to use flea market at all until you're level 10. If you have a Discord channel, I highly suggest Kilobot. Kilobot will help you. You can type in I forget the commands, but you can basically ask it, hey, how much is this worth? Or key 207, and it tells you everything about that key, how much it's worth, how much it's going for in the market at that time, so on and so forth. Or you can say, hey, how much is this M700 that key card worth? And it will tell you all the stats for it. Very useful stuff to have, and I highly suggest. Worst case scenario, you just go on your phone, Google, hey, what's this Labs Terror Group keycard from Escape from Tarkov worth, and it'll tell you the live market price of it. Always reference things, especially if it's something that looks unique, like a key card, or if it's looking purplish, like this MCB, the military circuit board. Always try to, if it's something standing out to you, you're not sure about it, go ahead, Google it. Thanks, guys, for watching. And as always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please drop a link or a comment in the below. Follow me on Twitch. I try to stream pretty regularly. If If you have anything you need help with, one-on-one, I'm all about helping out the community. If you have any suggestions on what videos to do next, please let me know and I'll be there to help you out. Thanks.